I have to complete this. If it kills me, I don't care. I have to complete this for Tania. I need to find justice for her. So I don't care about me right now. I don't care how sick I get, if I lose my voice, if I lose my life, if I lose my heart. I cannot sleep. I cannot rest until I get justice for Tania.
December 1st, 2025, Hemet, California. Charo Tovar picked up her phone and tried to call her daughter. No answer. She tried again. Nothing. She opened the location sharing app they used as to stay connected. It had been turned off. That had never happened before. Tinea Tovar was 17 years old. She had run away from her foster group home in Hemet. Something her mother knew about. Something they had stayed in touch through, because even when Tinea made choices that complicated things, she and her mother kept in communication. They kept texting. They stayed connected until December 1st, when the phone went silent and the location app went dark, and a message came through social media from one of Tinea's friends saying she was missing. Charo Tovar filed a missing persons report the same day. Then she did what mothers do when the system moves too slowly. She posted on TikTok, Snapchat, and Facebook, pleading for anyone who knew where her daughter was to come forward. Strangers across the country began sharing Tinea's photo. "I have to thank people for sharing my daughter's story," Charo later said. "I appreciate it so much." She did not yet know that her daughter was already gone, and that what would follow would become one of Southern California's most disturbing homicide investigations. Tinea Tovar was known to the people who loved her as TT. She was creative with a big personality, the kind of girl who filled a room. Her mother wanted her remembered not as a murder victim, but as a teenager who had struggled, who had made mistakes, who had been loved deeply, fiercely, unconditionally by the family she had. The last confirmed sighting of Tinea was a friend dropping her off in Salton City, a small remote community on the eastern shore of the Salton Sea, about an hour southeast of Palm Springs. She had been dropped off at a specific address on Harlequin Court. The home belonged to a 51-year-old man named Abraham Feinbloom. It was a boarded-up pink house. Neighbors would later tell investigators and reporters what they had noticed coming from that house in the weeks and months before Tinea disappeared. Drums, bright lights, and occasional screams. Imperial County Sheriff's deputies responded to welfare checks at Abraham Feinbloom's Harlequin Court home multiple times throughout December, each visit prompted by Charo Tovar's relentless pleas for investigators to search the property. But each time, detectives faced the same obstacle. Without probable cause or evidence that a crime had occurred, they had no legal authority to force their way further into the investigation or search beyond what the law allowed. They left with more questions than answers. Charo refused to accept that.
I have to complete this. If it kills me, I don't care. I have to complete this for Tania. I need to find justice for her. So I don't care about me right now. I don't care how sick I get, if I lose my voice, if I lose my life, if I lose my heart. I cannot sleep. I cannot rest until I get justice for Tania. I've been receiving every single tip, every single clue. I've been checking up on everything, so I can't. I have to also thank people for sharing my daughter's story on TikTok, on Snapchat, on Facebook, on all the platforms. I appreciate it so much, because a lot of them didn't know her, but they took it serious and they prayed for her to come home.
All praises to Charles. She's did a great job, and she's doing a great job. If it wasn't for her, we wouldn't have known nothing.
While investigators continued following every lead they legally could, Tinea's family launched a search campaign of their own. Missing person flyers appeared across Southern California. Her photograph flooded Facebook, TikTok, Snapchat, and Instagram. Thousands of strangers shared her story, hoping someone would recognize her face or come forward with the one piece of information that could bring her home. With each passing day, public pressure intensified. The growing attention on social media expanded the search and kept Tanea's disappearance in the spotlight. But despite the countless shares, tips, and prayers, the answer everyone was searching for would come from somewhere no one expected. On December 21st, 20 days after Tanea was reported missing, investigators searching a remote field near Vista Del Mar, less than a mile from Abraham Feinbloom's home, made a horrifying discovery. It wasn't a body, it wasn't a piece of clothing, it was a human leg. The remains were badly decomposed. At first, investigators believed they belonged to a male. The leg was carefully collected, sealed into evidence, and sent to the crime laboratory, where it was cataloged as unidentified human remains. For weeks, no one knew who it belonged to. Then detectives contacted Charo Tovar. They asked her to provide a DNA sample. She did without hesitation. All she could do now was wait. Days passed. Then the phone rang. It wasn't the sheriff's office. It wasn't the FBI. It wasn't the district attorney's office. It was a reporter. Before law enforcement had notified her, before anyone from the investigation had come to her door, a news reporter told Charo the answer she had spent weeks praying she would never hear. The DNA was a match. The human leg belonged to her 17-year-old daughter, Tanea Tovar. Investigators also recovered bullet fragments from inside the leg, leading authorities to believe Tanea had been killed by a gunshot wound. In an instant, the search for a missing teenager became a homicide investigation. For Charo, the hope that her daughter might still come home died with a phone call she should never have received from the media.
Tonight, the parents of 17-year-old Tanea Tovar are speaking exclusively with News Channel 3 following the identification of her remains and the arrest of a person in connection to her death. 51-year-old Salton City man Abraham Feinbloom has been arrested on suspicion of murder and resisting a peace officer. He's being held without bail in an Imperial County jail. Hello, I'm Athena Gerage. News Channel 3 was the first to report that Tovar's remains had been identified after her mother told reporter Garrett Hoddle that DNA police collected from her matched remains discovered near the Salton Sea back in December. Tonight, both of Tovar's parents are speaking together on the case for the first time and about the daughter they lost.
Before the field, before the crime scene tape, before the arrest, it was just Tanea.
Tanea is a vibrant young lady, a spark. She is a force to reckon with.
A daughter, a teenager with big energy and dreams.
She's funny in her own ways, very flamboyant.
Her parents, Charo Tovar and Josh Carter, are separated. Tanea wasn't living with them. Like a lot of 17-year-olds, she was figuring out life, sometimes doing things our parents wish we wouldn't. But at the end of the day, she had a mom and dad who she knew would be there if there ever came a time nobody else would. She was 17, on probation, but her parents say she checked in daily. She shared her location until December 1st.
I didn't know she was going to go meet someone. She didn't say who she was going to go meet. She just said she was going to Palm Springs. Her location was on, then it was off. And then her friends contacted me on social media to tell me that they hadn't heard from Tanea either.
On December 1st, 2025, Tanea is reported missing. December 21st, deputies respond to Portsmouth Avenue and New Haven Court in Salton City. They discover a human leg in a field. At the time, investigators cannot determine an ID. Weeks pass, then February 6, 2026, Imperial County Sheriff's investigators receive a positive DNA match from the remains. Tanea's mother provided a sample. Rapid testing confirms the remains belong to Tanea Tovar. On February 11th, News Channel 3 reports that confirmation. Authorities formally confirmed the next day. On February 13th, deputies and FBI agents returned to a home on Harlequin Court in Salton City, the same one from February 6th. Investigators say when they moved in, 51-year-old Abraham Feinbloom ran, jumping a fence before being taken into custody on suspicion of murder and resisting a peace officer. He's now being held without bail at the Imperial County Jail. He has not been formally charged. Tania's parents say they drove to Harlequin Court multiple times asking police to search the home.
I gave them all the information that they needed. I don't believe that they took me serious. I don't believe they took me serious. I gave them too much evidence for them to have did something now.
They say they never saw Feinbloom face to face. They never saw him come outside. They've been watching the scene unfold from a distance. These past 2 weeks, fighting for answers, pushing for action, barely having a moment to grieve.
I have to complete this. If it kills me, I don't care. I have to complete this for Tania. I need to find justice for her. So I don't care about me right now. I don't care how sick I get, if I lose my voice, if I lose my life, if I lose my heart. I cannot sleep. I cannot rest until I get justice for Tania.
Neighbors tell News Channel 3 they heard screaming around the time Tania disappeared. They described loud drumming, bright lights at night. You've been the neighbor here for several years. Can you tell me anything about him, this man that lives here?
He's always been very odd, scary. Since we moved here in 2015, we've always called him the scary man in the scary house. When we finished moving in 2015, we noticed there was a forensic truck here also back then.
Strange construction of a pink wall surrounding the home.
The only report that I got was the neighbor heard a scream. They saw her in the backyard. Shortly after that, he was carrying a duffel bag out to one of his vehicles.
Claims not confirmed by law enforcement. Despite the arrest, there's no closure. Only part of Tania's remains have been recovered. Investigators continue processing evidence. The case remains active. Some questions beginning to get answers. Some of the most important have not.
Why? Everything else is ever. Why? Where is she? Where is the rest of my daughter? I can't.
Tania's mother, Charo, tells us one thing she's never had to question is support from the Salton City community. Neighbors who have treated Tania like their own.
I've been receiving every single tip, every single clue. I've been checking up on everything, so I have to also thank people for sharing my daughter's story on TikTok, on Snapchat, on Facebook, on all the platforms. I appreciate it so much, because a lot of them didn't know her, but they took it serious and they prayed for her to come home.
On February 6th, 2026, investigators executed a search warrant at Feinbloom's home. On February 13, a SWAT team returned with a second warrant. When they arrived, Feinbloom attempted to run. He was taken into custody. When he was arrested, he was found in possession of his passport and Thai currency, a man apparently preparing to go somewhere far away. Court records revealed something else. In 2019, Abraham Feinbloom had faced felony kidnapping charges. Those charges were dismissed.
At 6, new details in the timeline in the murder of a 17-year-old Hemet girl. A 51-year-old man is now in custody in connection with the death of Tania Tovar.
News Channel 3's Garrett Hobble began covering this story back on February 6 when federal agents were seen executing a search warrant at a home in Salton City.
Tonight, he's live in the newsroom breaking down the latest information and the timeline of this case. Garrett.
Thanks, Karen. That's absolutely right. In the past day alone, I've received several calls from friends of Tania who say she may have visited the Harlequin Court home even before October. Now, these claims have not been independently verified, and law enforcement hasn't said how long she and Abraham Feinbloom may have known each other. On October 23rd, 2025, Tania posted a TikTok. The caption reads, "I need friends, but I'm all the way in." When you swipe to the next image, a map appears. It shows her location in the Salton Sea area. This publicly documents that Tania was in or near Salton City more than 5 weeks before she was reported missing. It does not confirm she was at the Harlequin Court home that day, but it places her in the area. Friends also telling investigators they saw Tania with Feinbloom near 7th Street and Metro in October. That sighting, combined with the TikTok, establishes contact between the two weeks before December. Husband saw Tania?
He saw the girl in the street walking around.
February 6th was the first time we saw the Harlequin Court property in person. What stood out immediately, it didn't feel open. You were talking about when the FBI came and knocked on your door. What did they tell you?
They wanted to ask her some questions about the missing girl. And if I was aware about the missing girl in the area that had went missing, I said, yes, someone put a flyer at the corner of my house.
February 6th was the first time we saw the Harlequin Court property in person. Who owns this property? That's a question that we've been asking. What I've been told by neighbors is that about 2 years ago, the original property owner died. That investigation connected to remains found on December 21st near Portsmouth Avenue and New Haven Court. At the time, the identity is unknown. Neighbors tell News Channel 3 around December 23rd, shortly after law enforcement activity at the home, multiple security cameras were installed. Photos received by KSQ News Channel 3 show a forensic unit from the Imperial County Sheriff's Office outside the home in 2015. Fast forward to February 13th, a search warrant is served again. Feinbloom is seen jumping a fence trying to run away from police. He's arrested on suspicion of murder and resisting a peace officer. Currently sits in the Imperial County Jail, held without bail.
He was arraigned in Imperial County Superior Court and charged with first-degree murder with a firearm enhancement and resisting a peace officer. He pleaded not guilty and was held without bail. His defense attorney, Melanie Rowe, immediately went to work on his behalf, pointing out at a subsequent hearing that no human blood had been found on anything seized from his home or vehicles, that the rest of Tanea's remains had never been recovered, and that the prosecution's own forensic experts had disagreements between themselves.
A teen who was reported missing back in December of 2025 and whose partial remains were later found in February of this year, less than a mile away from the suspect's home. Now, today is Feinbloom's first court appearance since a lengthy 3-day preliminary hearing that took place back in April, where the prosecution team and investigators presented video evidence of the suspect and the victim inside the suspect's home in Salton City, as well as a cell phone tower that showed that the victim's last known location was at the suspect's home before she was reported missing. Now, during today's hearing, the defense attorney also filed a 995 motion. That's a legal request to dismiss all or partial of the criminal charges that the defendant is facing. Now, there could be a possibility that the prosecution and defense team reach a plea deal in this case, but that is not yet known or confirmed. Now, Feinbloom will be back in court, as well as the prosecution and defense team for this case on July 16th for a pretrial setting. All of this as Tania Tovar's family continues to fight for justice. We'll, of course, bring you the latest details in this ongoing case, both on air and online.
Only one leg had been found. Tanea's case remains one of the most disturbing details in the investigation. That nearly everything that was done to her after she was killed remains unknown because so little of her has been found. As of this video, the case against Abraham Feinbloom remains pending, and he has pleaded not guilty. The court will ultimately decide his fate. For Tanea's family, however, no verdict can undo what happened. A 17-year-old girl left believing she would be back. Instead, her mother spent weeks searching for her, refusing to give up hope until the truth was finally uncovered. Tania Tovar deserved the chance to grow up. Instead, her story became another reminder of how quickly a life can be stolen and how a family can be changed forever. Rest in peace. Thank you for watching The Grim Watch. Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more true crime documentaries. See you in the next video.